What if the entire rulebook for how America trades with the world got completely torn up and rewritten in just over a year? Well, believe it or not, since early 2025, that is exactly what's been happening. And look, this isn't just a tweak here or there. It's a whole new playbook that's sending massive shockwaves through the global economy. So let's break down what's going on and what it really means for all of us.
It really all starts with this one number, 9.9%. As of early 2026, that's the new average tariff on pretty much everything coming into the US. Now, to put that into perspective, you have to rewind the clock all the way back to 1946, right after World War II, to find a rate that high. This is, no exaggeration, a historic shift.
So what's the big idea driving all this change? Well, the president himself has been crystal clear. This quote, it really tells you everything you need to know about the administration's philosophy. Tariffs aren't seen as just some defensive tool anymore. They're viewed as a primary, powerful instrument for getting things done, both economically and on the world stage. This whole philosophy gets wrapped up in what's called the America First trade policy, and this represents a huge break from the past. For decades, the U.S. focused on big, complicated trade deals with lots of countries at once. This new strategy, it's called aggressive reciprocity. The idea is actually super simple. If you put up a trade barrier to our stuff, we're going to build one just as high for yours. It's a trade version of an eye for an eye. So how is all of this happening, and so fast? Well, the administration has basically unlocked a powerful and, as we'll see, pretty controversial economic arsenal using legal tools that have been sitting on the books for years. Let's take a look at the weapons of choice here. Okay, so there are three main tools doing all the heavy lifting. First, you've got IEPA. It's a law that was designed for true national emergencies, but now it's being used to slap on tariffs for things like border security and fentanyl. Then there's Section 232, which is meant to protect critical industries like steel and auto manufacturing. And finally, you have Section 301, which is being aimed squarely at China for what the administration calls their unfair trade practices. And this is where things get really controversial. That emergency law, IEPA, its use for tariffs is built on some pretty shaky legal ground. In fact, it's already been struck down by two different lower courts, and now it's headed for a big showdown at the Supreme Court. This is huge because it means a massive piece of this new trade architecture could basically crumble. But look, these policies aren't happening in a bubble. The U.S. is making massive waves, and that's creating this incredible ripple effect across the entire globe, forcing every other country to figure out how to respond. So let's look at how the world trade map is literally being redrawn right now. And nowhere is this more dramatic than in the showdown with China. Just look at this timeline from 2025. In April, U.S. tariffs on Chinese goods spiked to a staggering 125%. China retaliates instantly. Then there's a fragile truce, followed by new threats, and finally a shaky deal. It's this crazy, high-stakes economic war playing out in a matter of months. The administration has also unleashed this really powerful new weapon called secondary tariffs. Here's the idea. The U.S. market is so huge, so valuable, that access to it can be used as leverage. So if you're another country and you trade with U.S. adversaries like Iran, you could suddenly face tariffs on your own goods coming into America. It's a way of forcing other countries to pick a side. So what does all this look like on the ground? Well, this complicated web of tariffs is actively creating winners and losers in real time. For instance, an American company importing South African wine now finds it 17 percentage points more expensive than it was. But at the same time, rice from Italy is suddenly 12 points cheaper than from other places. This is how the global market is being reshaped, one product at a time. But it's really important to understand that this strategy isn't just about tearing down the old rules. There's also a build phase. It's about constructing something new, a secure, protected supply chain for the critical materials that power, well, everything in our modern lives. And a key piece of this puzzle is a concept called price floors. Here's the problem the administration is trying to solve. China can produce critical minerals like lithium and nickel so cheaply that they can flood the market, basically driving mines in the U.S. or allied countries out of business. A price floor sets a minimum price, a baseline, so our projects can actually compete and stay afloat. So how does it actually work? Well, you can think of it as a three-step play. First, the U.S. and its partner countries all agree on a minimum price for these minerals. Step 2, they use tariffs, which can be adjusted on imports from countries outside their club to make sure nobody can sell for less than that floor price. And the end game? You get a protected, preferential market that secures the supply chain for everyone inside the bloc. And who's running the show on this? Well, that's where this brand new international group called Forge comes in. The easiest way to think about it is like a strategic alliance, almost like an OPEC, but for the critical minerals that go into your phone, your car, and our green energy tech. It's all about bringing allies together to push back against China's control of these crucial markets. Okay, so we've talked about the high-level strategy, the global impact, all the moving pieces. But now let's bring this all the way down to earth, because the biggest question for most of us is, what does this actually mean for me, for my wallet? What's the real-world price tag for the average American family? And the answer, according to economic models, is pretty direct. These new tariffs are estimated to work out to an average tax increase of about $1,300 per U.S. household in 2026. Because at the end of the day, that's what a tariff is. It's a tax on imported goods. And that cost? It gets passed straight down the line to you, the consumer, at the checkout. So this all comes down to one massive balancing act. On one side of the scale, you have the administration's goals: boost U.S. manufacturing, protect key industries, and raise money for the government. But on the other side of the scale are the direct trade-offs: higher prices for just about everything, and a whole new era of economic uncertainty.
Which leaves us with the big defining question. Are we just watching a series of chaotic, temporary trade battles play out? Or are we actually witnessing the moment the permanent architecture of a new global economy is being built, one that's based on strategic competition and protected economic blocs? Honestly, the answer to that is going to define the world for decades to come.